6. The 101st Airborne Division's next rendezvous with Destiny is north to Baghdad. Upward Desert Eagle 2 is now in effect. Godspeed, Air Assault, out.
Okay, operators, go ahead and take a seat. Let's go ahead and start tracking on these chicken knocks. Wink, wink. So, the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault provides our nation an unmatched expeditionary air assault capability to conduct forcible entry and other worldwide unified land operations in support of combatant commanders. Fort Campbell serves as projection platform and premier training and development center for air assault operations in the United States Army, home of the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, the 5th Special Forces Group Airborne, and the 160th Special Operation Aviation Regiment Airborne. And I would really hope that you guys would know who I'm speaking of when I speak of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. How about some fucking Night Stalkers out there, huh? Little Task Force 158. So let's go ahead and track on a few key points with the 101st Airborne Division. So the 101st Airborne Division was activated on 16 August 1942 at Camp Claiborne, Louisiana. In his first address to his troopers of the 101st, Commander Major General William C. Lee said that though the division had no history, it had a rendezvous with destiny, and the division was to be called on when the need was immediate and extreme. According to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, the 101st Airborne Division's Screaming Eagles nickname originated from their insignia, obviously. A bald eagle on a black shield, an eagle named Old Abe in honor of President Abraham Lincoln. Now, honestly, leave it in the comments. I would guarantee you, unless you have boots on ground with this historic division, that you had no idea that that eagle's name was Old Abe and was actually in honor of President Abraham Lincoln. And now you know. And was the mascot of a Wisconsin regiment during the Civil War. The 101st Division, which was formed as a reserve unit in Wisconsin shortly after World War I, included Old Abe as part of the division's insignia. So, before we track on with the following, here's another little factoid about Matrix Native for you. So, my eldest son was actually born on the day and the month June 6th. And you ask me why I just put that out there? Because I think it's a little coinky-dinky that my son was born on June 6th, although it was not 1944. I mean, I know I'm old, but I'm not that freaking old, who? On June 6, 1944, the Screaming Eagles became the first Allied soldiers to set foot into occupied France in the Cotentin Peninsula, according to the Army. The division played a major role during D-Day operations by clearing a path for the 4th Infantry Division to land on Utah Beach and eventually linked the Utah and Omaha beachheads and liberated the city of Carrollton. So I hope, with that being said, that you understand the significance of my son being born on June 6th. I just thought that was, I mean, it was fitting, right? A hitter's boy born on freaking D-Day, so let's freaking go! So, in September 1957, President Dwight D. Eisenhower sent elements of the 101st Airborne Division to safeguard the Little Rock Nine, a group of African-American students trying to attend class at Little Rock Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, I will tell you this, my channel is not about to say, oh, you know, civil unrest in America, you know, it's really a short period, you know, it hasn't been that long. I mean, September 1957. However, that I'm not getting into that slippery slope of civil unrest because, in my opinion, the way that the media and, you know, hell, even when you go to school, they want to portray it that there's this huge race war going on within the borders of the United States of America. And I have to beg to disagree. I think it's there because the goddamn media is doing everything they can to keep it there. I'm not saying that there aren't civil unrest from time to time, but you tell me one powerful country, or hell, you ain't even got that powerful, and you tell me one that does not have civil unrest. As long as we don't delve into that racist shit on this channel, I'm hooked. So, let's track on. So during the Vietnam War, the 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division was known as a nomad unit, and its soldiers were routinely placed in enemy hotspots to engage the highly trained entrenched forces of the NBA. For you young hitters, that would be the North Vietnamese Army, basically our enemies. A 12-day ground battle ensued, basically on the A Shaw Valley, May 10th, 1965, to remove enemy forces from Donak Bia Mountain on Hill 937. You might have heard about that hill in this little movie that Hollywood made. I believe it was Hamburger Hill. That was Hill 937 during Operation Apache Snow. A 12-day ground battle ensued, as stated, with the 301st Infantry Battalions and South Vietnamese soldiers foraging up the hill against mortar attacks, rocket-propelled grenades, and small arms fire. The grueling fight ended with some more than 500 enemy troops eliminated and captured on that particular mountain. It was also a hard-earned victory, leaving more than 300 U.S. soldiers wounded, another 72 KIA. Of that number, 39 Rakkasans lost their lives. Countless casualties and injuries led to the troops dub Dong Ap Bia, Hamburger Hill, as stated. And if you've never seen that movie, I highly suggest you take a look at it. But also, the same with all those movies in the Vietnam era, got to take them all with a grain of salt and not watch them as accurate history depictions of history, even though there are elements of those movies that would be actually pretty sound in history. But for the most part, Hollywood's going to do their thing. Hollywood will definitely do their number on history because they like to turn it the way they want us to think of history. So, tracking on with a little more history, first let me say they were activated in 1918, which that alone gives them the 100-year mark or whatnot. However, I do want to say, though, there might be other units out there abroad as well as in the United States of America that have been activated longer, however, have not seen the combat campaigns that the 101st Airborne Division has seen. Again, we might fuck around and call them the chicken hawks, air assault only now. However, let me reiterate that these hitters right here, even in today's Army, even though they're not necessarily paratroopers anymore, I must reiterate that they have seen more action in their span than just about any unit that I have ever done. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we drive forward. Again, the 101st Airborne Division is a specialized modular light infantry division of the U.S. Army trained for air assault operations. The Screaming Eagles has been referred to as the tip of the spear by former U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates. And just let me stop right there for a second because, okay, maybe he said it, but I've heard of literally tens and hundreds of units referred to as the tip of the spear. Now, nothing against my boys in the 101st, but I'm just saying that I've heard a lot of units referred to as the tip of the spear, and that's a new one on me as far as the 101st Airborne Division and me having boots on ground while I served in the United States Army. So, who is that? Let's go tip of the spear, as he wants to call them. I'm sure, again, though, like I said, a lot of units have been referred to as the tip of the spear. Now, again, the 101st Airborne Division has a history, as stated, that is nearly a century long. During World War II, it was renowned, again, for its role in Operation Overlord. Basically, the D-Day landings in general, airborne landings on June 6, 1944 in Normandy, France, Operation Market Garden, the liberation of the Netherlands, and its action during the Battle of the Bulge around the city of Bastogne, Belgium. I'm sure that anyone that follows, and I know a lot of you guys were waiting for me to bring this up, Band of Brothers. I'm telling you, I have the limited edition set, and I will sit and watch that. Actually, my family and I, well, we used to, not so much in the recent history, but we would sit around the TV and watch the entire DVD set. on the Band of Brothers, because I believe that that is one believable as well as accurate as far as its history, and that's the Band of Brothers. So in closing, let's go ahead and remember that this is a very, very historic unit, 101st Airborne, right? And let's not forget, in mid-68, it was recognized and redesignated as an air mobile division, and then in 74 was reclassed as an air assault division. The titles reflect the division's shift from airplanes to choppers as the primary method of delivering troops into combat. Many current members of the 101st are graduates of the U.S. Army Air Assault School. Hey, Bowinkle. It is known as the toughest days in the U.S. Army, and its dropout rate is around 50%. Division headquarters is at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. In recent years, the division has served in, obviously, Iraq and Afghanistan. At the height of the war on Tangoism, the 101st Airborne Division had over 200 aircraft. The division now has slightly over 100 aircraft. As of December 2017, the division had about 29,000 soldiers, down from 35,000 soldiers just 3 years prior because of obvious budget restraints. So, however, I hear the numbers creeping back up with Donald Trump in office. So a couple of things I want to bring up here, and I feel it is very appropriate, and I could not close this segment of this video out without bringing it up. And one is a very tragic incident that occurred with the 101st, and one is a very inspiring event that occurred with the 101st. So basically, I'm sure you young hitters would not know this. Hitters my age, you'd better know this if you're tracking on this channel. However, Aero Air Flight 1285 was a McDonnell Douglas DC-8 jetliner that operated as an international charter flight carrying U.S. troops basically from Cairo, Egypt to their home base in Fort Campbell, Kentucky via West Germany and Gander, Canada. Gander, Canada. On the morning of Thursday, 12 December 1985, shortly after takeoff from Gander en route to Fort Campbell, the aircraft stalled, crashed, and burned about a half a mile from the runway, killing all 248 paratroopers and 8 crew members on board. As of 2018, it is the deadliest aviation accident to occur on Canadian soil and the second deadliest of any accident involving a DC-8. So I just wanted to tell you my heart goes out to you, and RIP to the paratroopers with the 101st Airborne on that flight, that being Aero Air Flight 1285.
You ain't gonna jump no more.
So what I also wanted to bring up here in closing was the fact of this very, very inspirational, definitely inspired me and I'm sure others. In April 2013, Sergeant First Class Greg Robinson, 34, a combat engineer assigned to Company A 2nd Brigade Special Troops Battalion 2nd Brigade Combat Team 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, pinned on his air assault badge during a graduation ceremony held at the infamous Fort Campbell's Sobolewski Air Assault School. Robinson, who lost his lower right leg during a firefight in 2006 in Afghanistan, is the first soldier with an amputated limb and prosthetic to complete the Air Assault School. So, a lot of whoism coming your way, Sergeant First Class Greg Robinson. So, that'll close up another history. And yes, I hope you're still watching. And more specifically, I hope you learned something, because like I always say, knowledge is power. And let me tell you, you cannot be a stupid mofo and get into any kind of high-speed unit out there. And you could take that to the bank. You need a good, solid, fundamental education to throw in your ruck with all your gear. 101st Airborne, 1918 to present. That makes him 100 years old. Also makes him, as we would say, 1 century. So, who are the 101st? Obviously, the country United States. Nickname, obviously, the Screaming Eagles. Motto, I don't care what some pogue ass says, tip of the spear. 101st Airborne Division Air Assault's motto, rendezvous with destiny. So not trying to take anything away from these hitters down there. I know at Sobolski they say this will be the toughest 10 days in your Army career. Let me tell you, whoever stated that obviously never went to Ranger School. The easiest day in Ranger School, I would say, was compared to the hardest day over at Bullwinkle School. So with that being said, I also want to let you guys know that perhaps one of the biggest hippies and perhaps the best guitar player ever, little hitter known as Jimi Hendrix, definitely stood up, picked up his weapon, and got the fuck down range. So I don't know what all these libtards' excuses are in today's society. You freaking hippies. Operators on your feet! Let's get the fuck down range, huh?